Hello everyone, my name is Elle, in case you didn't already know. Welcome to my channel. Today I wanted to chat with you guys a little bit about some places where I find makeup inspiration. I often get asked this question, how I come up with looks and where I find ideas for color combinations and that sort of stuff. So I thought that I would give you guys a quick rundown on some of the places where I find my inspiration. So this is not about technique, it's not about skill. I've never claimed to be a makeup artist. I'm simply a makeup enthusiast. I love playing with makeup. I love experimenting with different things. And I guess that's a good and a bad thing because I'm not technically precise 99% of the time, but I just have fun playing with things. And I pull inspiration from some kind of unusual sources sometimes, at least compared to some of the conversations I've had with fellow makeup enthusiasts. So the first thing I want to talk about is social media, which is pretty obvious. I think it's the first thing that most people think about and that most people go to. YouTube, Instagram, those seem to be the top two places people will look at tutorials and follow them. They'll look at little mini tutorials on Instagram or pictures and get inspiration from that. And I think those are both fantastic places for inspiration. I often follow along with tutorials, especially when I'm trying to learn a new technique or if something just really spoke to me, some sort of color combination or shape or something like that. But besides tutorials on YouTube, I often get inspiration from YouTubers who don't do tutorials or from a video that's not a tutorial, like a review video or a favorite video, even some story time videos, from some people who aren't even considered beauty YouTubers. You can get some interesting ideas, and sometimes it's fun to explore people who are not like the top of the top because they can sometimes be a little bit more experimental because the pressure is not there. If you dare to go through the comment section on some of those videos when a YouTuber does a little bit more of a unique or colorful look, it's kind of crazy because people don't really appreciate it a lot, like the average person, at least from my experience, what I've seen going through those sections. It's kind of a nightmare. Instagram is kind of the same thing. You can find a lot of inspiration there. It's hard looking for terms on Instagram, I find, because a tag like makeup or makeup look, something like that, is really cluttered and it's not always the best quality. It's sometimes hard to see the colors used in an eye look. Sometimes everything's just really blurry. I like to look through the Explore page and I will search through, which sort of gives you recommendations based on things you've liked before or based on people you already follow. And that is a place where I find some inspiration, and when I find things I like, I save it, just so I can refer back to it later. And if I'm curious about how to do a certain style, then I can go to YouTube and look up a technique. Other places relating to social media that I feel like sometimes get overlooked but are really good sources of inspiration: Twitter. I feel like brands often repost, retweet looks on Twitter more often than they would repost something on, say, Instagram. So it's a good place to go to, especially if you are looking for inspiration for something new. Like if you just got a new palette that came out, go to Twitter, go to that brand's page, and you'll probably see a lot of looks there and a variety of things. They're not going to necessarily be worrying about the top of the top quality for something they retweet on Twitter as opposed to something they repost on Instagram. It definitely seems to be a bit of a separation there. So Twitter's a good thing. I also will go to Pinterest. I have a few Pinterest boards. Right now I have two different makeup boards for Pinterest. One that's more of like a classic style makeup board and one that's more editorial, a little bit more out there, and I can pull inspiration from either or. Tumblr is another good place. Tumblr, not necessarily for straight up makeup looks, but for other sources of inspiration like color schemes. I will talk a little bit more about Tumblr towards the end of this video because I don't really use it that much for straight up eye looks, but every now and then you can come across something that's really pretty. There are some pretty good Tumblrs dedicated to makeup, although a lot of the ones I found are really triggering, I'll say, if you are cautious of your spending. So just be warned, because a lot of it will show a lot of hauls, a lot of like displays of makeup and not just makeup looks. So just a word of caution, because I know a lot of people who watch my channel are cautious of their spending about bringing new makeup products in, and certain things like that can be triggering. So just wanted to put that disclaimer. Another place is Reddit. And I know Reddit gets a bad rap. Before I joined Reddit, I kind of thought the same thing about it, but there's a few makeup subs on there that are fantastic, and I really do like browsing the makeup addiction subreddit because you can get a lot of ideas there. People post pictures and it's really inspiring, especially when you can follow along if they do pictorials, which is actually somewhat common on there, or people will request it and then they'll do it later, which is awesome. You can also see things like improvement. If someone will post like their makeup look and ask for constructive criticism, they get the criticism, they apply it, and then they show kind of a before and after, like, hey, this is what my face looked like first, and this is what my face looks like now thanks to your constructive criticism. And you can really see the changes. Even if they're really small changes, it can make a huge difference, and you can try some of those techniques for yourself to see if it makes a difference within your own makeup. So you can also use Reddit as a tool if you want to. I have not been brave enough to post my own makeup look. I'm kind of terrible at taking makeup photos of my face, just because my eyes are so hooded that it's hard to capture my eyeshadow properly, and I just feel like I would be totally roasted in the comment section there because I just wouldn't be able to get a clear photo, and I don't know if the recommendations that I would get would necessarily work for my particular terrible eye shape. I just do what I can with what I have. Anyway, the last social media related place would be Facebook. And some people might be thinking, what? Facebook? I know, I didn't think about it either. I joined a couple of makeup related Facebook groups and it's totally changed the way that I use Facebook now. I go on there and I look for inspiration from people who have posted things. Don't turn this into a drinking game where you take a shot every time I say inspiration or you will die. Anyway, I joined Samantha Ravndahl's Facebook group. I think it's BeautyTalks. Such a good group. There's so many talented people on there. It can be a little overwhelming at times. There's a lot of good color schemes on there, some really different, like, inspiring things. I'll plug my own Facebook group for a minute. I have the Pan Fam, which is more of a project panning, makeup rehab kind of place, but people do occasionally post eye looks and people ask for help if they need inspiration for panning something. If they don't know how to use a specific color or product, they can ask for help there, and people have given really good suggestions. I found it's been really helpful just looking through the comments on other people's posts and what they're asking for and what people suggest. You never know what you're going to find. I love looking through comment sections of things because sometimes I find the constructive criticism more helpful than the post itself. It can be a dangerous place to venture into if you're a sensitive person, but it can be really helpful too, depending on what your mindset is. So different layers of social media, there's a lot of places to find inspiration. I also find inspiration from real life people. So yes, people on social media are real life people, but I'm talking about seeing people in the flesh. There's just something different about seeing somebody's makeup right in front of you than seeing it photoshopped, because let's be real, 99% of those things you're seeing have been photoshopped, edited in some way. And it's good to find inspiration there, but it's not something that you really need to try to live up to because it's just not true. There's no way you're gonna look like that in real life in most cases. But real life people watching has always been something I like to do. I'm a bit of a writer. I've written short stories and plays, and I love watching people. I love just kind of stepping back and seeing how people interact with each other. And it's also really interesting to see things like makeup and fashion and stuff in a real setting. So depending on where you are, it can be a little bit more difficult. I happen to work in a university, so I can sometimes see these examples right in front of me. And it's really awesome when I see people with a full face of makeup or just something a little bit different. I've pulled inspiration from people that I see in my day-to-day life because somebody did something that I hadn't thought of, you know, some sort of color combination or even something just very simple. Oftentimes, because it's university, I will see people who focus on one feature, and I find that really interesting, just the way people choose to play something up, because I know, having been there not too long ago, that it's completely stressful and overwhelming and you're not thinking too much about your makeup when you have to go to the library at, you know, 9 o'clock in the morning. But you'll see people who do like a bold lip, I'll see people who have just like the really striking highlight but like no other makeup. I've seen people who do like the washes of shadow or really intricate shadow looks and then very minimal other makeup, and it's been really interesting to see that. I also like to go to the mall, which can be another kind of triggering spot, obviously, if you don't want to spend money because you're in the mall. You're gonna be around all those places, so you need to have some self-control to go there. But I actually like wandering around the mall. I'll even wander into places like Sephora and MAC and department stores and look at the people who work there, but also the people shopping there. And you just have to not be creepy about it, because you know, you don't want to be standing there and like staring somebody down, because that's just gonna make everyone uncomfortable. But I just like to look around and look at people and ask them questions. And if you see someone and you like what they have on their face, compliment them. Ask them what it is. Talk to them. Most people who have makeup on their face, especially noticeable makeup, will know what it is and might even be happy to talk to you about it. I've struck up conversations with total strangers while I'm swatching makeup, telling them I like the color of their lipstick, and they're telling me where they bought it, and you know, and it gives me inspiration. I don't have to go buy what they have on their face, but I can go, okay, I like that, so what do I have that's like it? Or do I want to buy something like it, but maybe not that exact thing? I like talking to people who work at places like MAC and getting an idea of what they've been into, what sort of trendy, if they know things in advance and they maybe know some sort of like ahead trend forecast. And some of them are professional makeup artists as well, so they just have a little bit of a unique take on things, so that's really fun. It's also fun to just watch people in like restaurants or coffee shops and just casually people watch. Sometimes I'll bring a notebook and just sort of jot things down. It might sound kind of weird to some people, but I just really enjoy watching other people interact with the world. It sounds bizarre saying it out loud, but it's just such an interesting thing to me just to see how different types of people do different things and how certain people wear their makeup and how different it can be between people. So again, there's a lot of different things you can get out of people watching, and I really enjoy doing it. The third thing, sticking still with real makeup looks, would be magazines. Traditional magazines. I have always been inspired by magazines since I started wearing makeup. I was in junior high when I had a subscription to Teen Magazine and Teen Vogue at some point, and Cosmo Girl and 17, and that's where I got all my knowledge of makeup from at the very beginning. That's where I got inspired, and I went from there to other magazines, and right now the magazine I tend to buy the most is Glamour. So this is just one that I had near me, but I feel like some people go right to the like beauty section and kind of stick within the beauty section, but there's so much inspiration within a magazine itself. I love looking at ads within magazines. I never used to, but now I really look at the makeup in editorials. I love looking at the fashion spreads within a magazine and just seeing what kind of makeup that they chose to do. There's even sometimes ads for makeup products in magazines, and I find that you can get really creative things that were done by professional makeup artists, brands like CoverGirl and Maybelline, and even some of the higher end brands that are like sold in Sephora and stuff have started to do ads, and it's really interesting to flip through a magazine and see what kind of things they've come up with. I used to pull out all the ads and like keep like a scrapbook of them. I haven't done that recently because I haven't had the time. Back in the day when I had nothing but time, that's what I used to do. So I still have binders and binders upon binders of, you know, ads and editorials and stuff like that, but it's really fun to flip through. And I feel like magazines, like traditional magazines, get overlooked now just because of all the YouTube and Instagram and everything else. I feel like it's sadly overlooked because there's really good sources that you can flip through and you can really study. And there's something about the size of a magazine. Like I had a subscription for the magazine that I use my iPad. I didn't like it. I like having the paper in my hands. I also like to scour like vintage stores used bookstores, places like even Value Village, to find old magazines. And I will purchase any old magazine, any old-fashioned magazine that I come across, and I will go through them. It's so much fun when you find the old magazines from like the 80s or 90s, and you can flip through them and get an idea of what really trends were like at that time. Because sometimes I feel like things get reinterpreted and modernized, which is no problem. I mean, it's great when trends can change and things adapt, but sometimes it's nice to see what it actually was like in like 1999. I have a magazine, an old glamour magazine from 1996, I think, and looking at the fashion and the makeup ads in there is so cool, because you can see what the inspiration was in 1996. Like in 1996, I was using like Bonnie Bell lip smackers, so I don't have a lot of knowledge of what makeup was like at that time besides like TV shows and magazines, so it's a really good source to pull from. Alright, so my last two categories are very subjective. So the first one is one that I've talked about many times on my channel, and that's music. Music is something that really inspires me in all facets of my life. It's probably pretty evident. If you've been on my channel for longer than this video, you will know all about my Fleetwood Mac Stevie Nicks obsession. It's right there for you, behind me all the time. It's one of the most important things, and I think one of the key defining things of me is just how much I love that music and how much it inspires me, and just music in general. And I can be really inspired in so many different ways from music. Sometimes it's a memory attached to a song that makes me think of a specific moment in my time, or I can think of, wow, you know, I remember listening to that song and I remember when I did this particular makeup look. I've talked about my Gypsy makeup look before, and I'm talking about the Fleetwood Mac song, because in the song Gypsy, Stevie Nicks sings about going back to the gypsy that she was. It's very much like post-fame sort of song, like trying to reconnect back to the person that she used to be, talking about having a mattress on the floor and having a room with lace and paper flowers and just very simple things. And that's what I will go back to when I do like a very simple gold eye and like a pinky nude lip, because that was my staple look from like the end of high school all through university. And it's just, it kind of takes me back to a place where makeup was very simple for me, and it's nice to go back and revisit that sometimes. Like, I can't do anything but a gold eye when I listen to that song, because that's what it makes me think of. And there's certain other songs that's like, I remember getting ready to go out to like karaoke or going out somewhere, and I can remember certain aspects of a look I did, and I pull from my own memories because of the song. And sometimes I pull from like a song's history or what a song inspires me. Like if I listen to Nirvana, I'm doing grunge makeup, or what grunge is to me anyway, what I've reinterpreted it to be. So there's different things you can pull from. If you're listening to an 80s song, you might be a little bit more heavy with color and be a little bit more dramatic in those sort of 80s sort of color palette. I like to do the sculpting crazy blush when I'm listening to 80s music. I like to do very insta-glam, like the very over-the-top glam makeup when I listen to more modern music. I tend to always do a like neutral cut crease with a lot of glitter and big false eyelashes when I listen to Britney Spears. There's just certain emotions and certain ways that songs make me feel, and it definitely heavily inspires a song. Sometimes it's even a color. Sometimes, like if I'm listening to like a really happy, upbeat song, I'm not going to do like a really dark, like black or gray kind of eye look. But if I'm listening to more of a sad, mellow sort of song, or like a hard rock kind of song, if I've got AC/DC going, chances are it's going to be a full-on black smoky eye, as dark as it possibly can be. I tend to listen to Black Sabbath and AC/DC when I do a black smoky eye. It's just the sort of stuff that just makes me want to have that little bit more of an edge. The lighter and airier the music is, the lighter my makeup tends to be. I'm just very inspired by music, and I know that's something that not everybody is. For some people, music is not important to them, and I don't understand that, and I'm sure there's people watching this who don't understand how I can be so inspired by music, but I've always been inspired by music. So when in doubt, I play music and I let the music guide me. I just try and stay consistent with the type of music I'm listening to. Otherwise, I end up with a very incohesive makeup look because I'll change my mind. Like if I put my music on shuffle and I start listening to like a show tune first, and I actually was listening to show tunes when I did this today, so that should tell you everything. So I'll do like show tunes and I'll have sort of like glitter and a bit of drama going on. And if I go from show tunes to Led Zeppelin, my makeup is going to take a bit of a change. And then if I start listening to like disco and, you know, rap music, it just goes all over the place. My music preference is very broad, and therefore I try and stay consistent when I'm listening to music. Otherwise I've got some sort of weird hybrid thing going on, and that's usually when my makeup ends up being very incohesive because it just, nothing goes together, because I've got like the 80s blush but the black lipstick and, you know, some sort of weird glitter eye, and it's just like nothing goes together because the music just sort of took me in so many different directions. So I would highly recommend listening to some music sometimes if you don't normally do it when you apply makeup, and just see if it takes you in a different direction. And the last place I get inspiration from is a biggie, and that's nature. And nature can be a lot of different things. For me, I'm really inspired by landscapes. I'm really inspired by the colors in the sky. I'm definitely a person who loves the sunsets and sunrises, and I love all those different colors. This is what I use Tumblr for most of the time right now. I reblog variations of landscapes and colors in the sky, and I love pulling inspiration from nature. I'm very much a person who every now and then needs to reconnect with nature. I love going for long walks. I love going for walks by myself and listening to music, combining them, perfect. I love hiking. I like walking with other people, but I really like just exploring alone and just turning everything off besides music and just, you know, tuning into nature and just relaxing. And I love looking for different color schemes and different color ideas in nature, and it's just so inspiring for me. My favorite paintings as well, like artwork is another good place to find inspiration. I'm obsessed with landscape art. I really love American landscape artists as well. Some of my favorite paintings are these gorgeous landscapes. Frederick Edwin Church is my favorite painter, and he just, my favorite piece of art is called Twilight and Wilderness, and it's just like so stunning. I could just look at that forever. I want to see it in person someday. I saw some of his work in Boston and I cried. Like, I was just so touched by it. Anyway, I really love looking at various forms of nature, from photographs to paintings to even altered pictures. Sometimes some of the pictures I reblog on Tumblr, it's very obvious that they were altered and changed, but I can still find inspiration from them. But there's nothing that really beats walking around in actual nature, looking at the way that like the sun is shining through trees, when you see like shadows on the ground, seeing leaves changing color. You know, you can see, I get inspired at the different seasons. I'm very basic and I love fall. I love fall sunrises and sunsets. I love the changing leaves. I love the way that the sun shines and reflects off things. You know, I love winter and like the way sun reflects off of snow and the sun. And you can see sometimes when there's like the pink sort of sky and the white snow, like it's just, it's so inspiring, you know, spring and all the spring colors and the flowers, and summer and the bright blue sky with either clouds or no clouds. I love looking at the big fluffy white clouds and seeing the contrast between like the blue and the white and the green grass. Like, it's just, all that stuff is really inspiring to me. And again, this is one of those things where some people might not be able to see it. It's one of those things that just inspires me, and it inspires me to do a lot more than just do makeup. It's something that inspires me in life. So I know this might be over some people's heads. I know that people might not get it, but I would recommend doing a Google search for nature, just for different colors, something as simple as a sunrise. If you're stuck for color inspiration, a lot of people pull inspiration from sunrises and sunsets, and you can get some really cool ideas for colors and even how to like blend colors together by looking at the way that nature does it itself. So that's what's really cool about it, is that you can actually see these examples in nature. Anyway, that is everything. I know it was a little all over the place, but I hope you guys enjoyed it. Anyway, I really loved chatting with you guys. I love these chatty videos where I can just tell you guys more about me, and I've just had so many people ask for my sources of inspiration that I hope this was helpful. If you have any other questions though, if you want to know anything more, if I can be of any more help to you, as always, feel free to reach out to me any way you know how to find me. Leave me a comment here, send me an email. All of my social media handles and stuff are linked in my description box, so just reach out wherever you want to, and I will gladly get back to you as soon as I possibly can. Thank you so much for watching and spending some time with me today. I really appreciate it, and I hope that I will talk to you soon. Bye for now.